Snowpiercer, Season 4, Episode 6. The title of this one is Belle the Cat. This episode opens on Wilford. He's doing some soldering. It's the current day. We know this because he's wearing his fancy coat that he got in the last episode. He talks about the engineer's greatest tool being the fulcrum. Jump to 11 months earlier. Wilford's in the track scaler. He's in and out of suspension, kind of like Mel in Season 3. We see his whole journey. He runs out of suspension drugs and water and eventually makes pleas for help over the radio. Eventually, he's saved by the peacekeepers. Wilford wakes up in the medical wing, and we find out some information now. So the base that Snowpiercer's been parked at, where the peacekeepers work out of, is called Bravo 30, and it is in Djibouti. Anton says the bunker is referred to as the silo. Wilford closes out the intro with Snowpiercer, 129 cars long. We get to see the soldier with the mouse or the fox on his face mask, with his helmet off, and you can see how badly scarred his face is. Wilford tries to bribe him with the possibility of Dr. Headwood fixing his face. Wilford is trying to open the tunnel that was locked last episode, and Anton wants it done sooner rather than later. Alex and Nima meet in a laboratory. We learn Melanie is off base doing atmospheric testing and should have been back by now. Alex wants to know who got away on Big Alice last episode, and Nima only wants to talk about the science. Alex offers to trade her scientific data from New Eden for information about who escaped. Leighton wakes up in a seemingly abandoned silo. He wanders around disorientated. He comes to a door. He passes through, and then you get to see that there's people following behind him. Big Alice roars through the frozen wastelands. Till passes through what looks like the old tail cars and is met by Dr. Pelton. Ruth is counting supplies in Big Alice's engine car when Till comes to check on the situation. We learn that supplies are very low, and Till asks Ruth to give a rousing speech to get everybody through it. Ruth attempts to do this, as she's done it numerous times, but chokes at the last minute, running away. Oz is wandering around the perimeter of New Eden looking for Roche, who disappeared at the end of the last episode. Oz comes across a tent, which he thinks Roche may be in, but upon further inspection, it's Wiggins from last season. Nima catches up with Anton in a hallway and asks him to perform another round of tests. We don't know what this means yet. Anton hesitates, but approves it. Anton enters a room labeled DFM or BFM. I couldn't quite make it out, so if you could tell what it was, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know. Wilford has a moment of lightheadedness as he works on the panel, leading to a cut on his hand. The guard supervising him, the one with the mouse on his helmet, allows Wilford to take an early lunch. He visits Dr. Headwood, and she suggests performing another treatment. We don't really know what that means, but it's pretty mysterious. We'll see later in the episode that it seems to reinvigorate him. Leighton wanders into a lab. I'm starting to think that this is one of the blocked off floors in the base. He passes cages in what seems like a dissection lab. He stumbles through some files, and we learn that they're experimenting on all different types of rodents. And I also saw at the bottom of the list zebrafish. Let me know if you saw something else. He's confronted by the inhabitants of this floor and is captured. Sykes, Javi, and Oz question Wiggins as he was on the train. He wasn't with them in New Eden, so the only way he got here was with the soldiers. Sykes ends up using Pain to interrogate him. She smushes his cut off hand, or his stub, and he screams out in pain and eventually passes out. In the next scene, Wilford's holding court over a bunch of peacekeepers in what looks like a lunchroom. And finally, there's something in the vending machines. They're all plugged in, they're all lit up, and they're full of MREs. If you don't know what a MRE is, it's a military ration. It stands for meals ready to eat. Wilford tells a rousing fight story, trying to gain some traction amongst Anton's troops. The whole time he's talking and laughing and he's smoking a big cigar. He must have got it off of Big Alice in the last episode. Anton walks in and confronts Wilford. He says that one of his troops should have told him, but there is no smoking. Wilford offers to put out his cigar. Anton protests, takes the cigar, and then puts it out on the back of one of his soldiers' hands. He has Wilford continue his story, and you can see Wilford shaken. Anton ends up leaving. He goes to the stairwell, and he has some type of anger or panic attack, punching the wall. Leighton wakes up and is questioned by the inhabitants of what we learn is floor 3. It is in fact one of the locked out levels of the silo. He informs them that he's from Snowpiercer and pleads his case. Anton, as a punishment for Wilford's story, has him taken off the repairs of Snowpiercer and sent on a sample run, which we learn is what Nemo wanted earlier. Alex takes over the repairs of Snowpiercer. Wilford and 5 peacekeepers enter floor 3 for a sample run. The soldiers taunt the inhabitants of level 3 and pour out a giant bag of those MREs we saw in the vending machines earlier. Wilford makes some comments about being bored, and then the lights start to strobe. Joker and the Thief by Wolfmother plays. Wilford laughs and says this is more like it. I'm calling them the freaks, the scarred up people. They run in and try and grab the MREs, and the soldiers are grabbing them and taking blood samples. When they try to leave, Wilford is left on level 3. The soldier, the one we've been seeing most of this episode, the one with the wolf on his mask or mouse on his mask, points his gun at Wilford like he's going to kill him, and then Wilford does some sweet talking, and he lets him live but abandons him on this level. He's confronted by Leighton. They run at each other, and this is the scene that it seems like Wilford was really reinvigorated by that treatment he got from Dr. Hedwood, because he keeps up, Wilford's 65 years old, and he keeps up pretty well. At the beginning of this fight, he kicks a table at Leighton, and Leighton runs along the wall and Superman punches him. It's a pretty good, for Snowpiercer, it's a pretty good hand-to-hand scene. Little daredevil-y. Leighton gets the upper hand on Wilford, and then Wilford pulls out a straight razor and slices Leighton. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Miss Victory 1945, who commented on the last video. She called that out, that Wilford grabbed that razor blade when he was getting his stuff, and I didn't notice. So, good on you. Let me know if there's something you saw in this episode. Both dazed, they slink away to nurse their wounds. Back on Big Alice, Till attempts to bring Ruth some food. Ruth said she couldn't give the speech because she had felt like she'd never been in this position before, losing an engineer. I think this is complete bullshit, because in the first episode, when they're trying to change the bogey motor, they lose a engineer, and it's something Italian, Della Torre, Delatea, something like that. And for Ruth not to remember that guy, I think is ridiculous, just because he's not a main character. They both agree to strive forward for Ben. So it turns out Wiggins was with the soldiers, and he was working with them to gain information on New Eden. We learn a little bit about Sykes in this scene. She purposefully works an egg seg, so none of her militaristic habits would come out. She tortured Wiggins pretty easily, and she's worried that she could relapse into being really violent. Leighton is saved by the leader of the people of level 3. Her name is Kara. She super glues this wound together, and I don't think this is how it works. I know you can super glue a wound together on your hand or something to cut yourself, but this is a 10-inch slash that goes up his chest to his, over his shoulder. I don't think, and she has a little tube of super glue. I think you would need if you were going to do it, you'd need a pint of super glue. Wilford rages in what looks like a radio room. He's very delirious after Leighton smashed his head off the pavement. Kara explains to Leighton that there was chemical leaks, and that's why the floors were sealed off. I find this very funny that Leighton's basically okay now. He got super glued up, and even though he lost a bunch of blood, completely fine. Oz gets Wiggins drunk out at his tent. Oz wants to get back to Snowpiercer. He thinks that's where he belongs. And then he offers Wiggins his night car service. And for a second, you think that it's going to get pretty raunchy. Alex works on the gate release, and she looks out the little slot in the door and sees that the manual override is outside, allowing her to start to put the pieces together that somebody may have had to sacrifice themselves to release the cars. Wilford works on the speaker system in this radio room, and Leighton attempts to bash the doors down, and when that doesn't work, he attempts to bash the windows in. Alex eventually fixes the door, and Nima tells Alex that Ben is dead. Anton gets a call from Wilford. He's fixed the communication system on level 3. Wilford threatens Anton. Wilford gloats and Anton rages. Anton makes Mouse take off his helmet and orders him to clean the level completely. In a turn of events, Wilford and Leighton form a truce so they can both escape level 3. Wilford so he can get back to his trains, and Leighton so he can get back to his daughter. So it wasn't sex Oz was offering. He ties Wiggins to the bed and then tickles his feet with oil, which is pretty weird, but then he tickles him so much that he can actually get the information out of him, interrogation style, and we find out that Wiggins was working with the Headwoods. Nima explains to Alex that Gemini, the black gas that we've been seeing this episode, is what allowed them to create New Eden. They shot a crude form of it up into the atmosphere, and it migrated around using weather, and that's how those hot spots were formed. The early form of Gemini is what caused the nosebleeds in New Eden. Wilford is trying to hotwire the doors of the elevator so they can climb into the shaft and get on top of the elevator car. Kara interrupts them and wonders why they would want to leave this floor. They don't really know of a world outside of it, the silo, anymore, so they're content with their horrible life. Anton and the Peacekeepers start equipping all their fancy gear to go into level 3 and kill everybody. Leighton and Wilford are interrupted when they're trying to open the elevator door. Thinking it's too soon, they brace for battle, but psych, it's actually Alex in the elevator, using Nima's card to get there. On Big Alice, they have a service for Ben. Each member of the train taking a small swipe with a knife to leave this symbol on the entry to Big Alice's helm. Ruth makes a beautiful statement about the engineer never leaving the train. It's kind of like Brooks from the Shawshank Redemption. It's even a B. The last interesting fact Wiggins had to give Oz was that they were digging out and planting different explosives around New Eden so that they could cause an avalanche to cover the city in snow. Nima notices Alex stole his card to get to level 3. Before he can tell anybody, Anton enters the room, stating that Melanie's snowcat is just a few kilometers out, signaling she'll probably return next episode.
Get busy living. You get busy dying.
Okay, time for a little speculation about next episode. I think we're going to get Alex getting Wilford and Leighton out, and a little bit of them sneaking around the facility trying to get Liana, and maybe Leighton and Wilford working together so they can get Liana and get the train and get out of there. So maybe Leighton gets the train, or Wilford gets the train back next episode. That would set us up for a nice last few episodes. We'll obviously have Melanie's return, so that'll be interesting. Maybe it won't work at all, and we'll be a lot more reliant on the trains. Okay, that's been a pretty good episode, guys. I think it was pretty good. Belle the cat really turning around for me. It was a little slow at the beginning, but you guys seem to like the last episode, so if you make it to the end of this one, please subscribe and like and comment and all that stuff. And I look forward to bringing you episode 7 when it comes out. Thanks for watching.